Hello and welcome to English class. Today we are going to learn the fourth poem from the book Hornbill. The name of the poem is Childhood and it is written by Marcus Nathan. Now telling more about Marcus Nathan. So Childhood is from the poet Marcus Nathan. In the childhood summary, the poet discusses the loss of his childhood. So this is the main theme of the poem, the loss of the childhood of the poet. The poet talks about that very moment where his innocence was lost. Coming to the theme of the poem, so the poem Childhood focuses on the theme of the loss of innocence. Marcus Nathan, the poet, wonders when and where he lost his childhood. Just remember these things, when and where. You will come to see this when and where in the very first lines of every stanzas in the poem. And in this poem, he ponders over this question and highlights the loss of innocence and faith in the quest of growing up. Now let me tell you the introduction to the poem. So Childhood is written by Marcus Nathan. In this poem, the poet thinks over his lost childhood. He wonders about the moment where he lost the innocence and realized that the world is not what he seemed it to be. He recalls when his thoughts changed and he realized the hypocrisy of the people around him. He finally settled down to the idea that his childhood went to some forgotten place and is hidden in the face of an innocent infant. Infant means very small child, a baby. Now let us see the poem Childhood and the explanation of it stanza wise. So this is the first stanza before you. When did my childhood go? Was it the day I ceased to be 11? Was it the time I realized that hell and heaven could not be found in geography and therefore could not be? Was that the day? So, in the above lines, the poet wonders about when his childhood came to an end. He asked himself, was it the day he was no longer 11 years old? Was it the day when he realized that hell and heaven existed and yet could not be found in geography or on the map? He realized they are imaginary places that actually do not exist in this world. In this stanza, the second line ceased meaning come to an end. Okay. Now let us come to the second stanza of the poem. So when did my childhood go? See, again in the second stanza, poet is starting with the same line. When did my childhood go? Was it the time I realized that adults were not all they seemed to be? They talked of love and preached of love, but did not act so lovingly. Was that the day? In the above stanza, the poet again repeats the same question about when did his childhood go. Okay, so in the very first line, the poet again asks that when did his childhood go. He wonders about the day when he started seeing the world with a new perception that adults are hypocrites and are not how they seemed to be. The adults who talked of love and preached of love and yet never behaved so lovingly. They are double faced in reality. Was that the day when his childhood go? Now let us come to the third stanza. When did my childhood go? Was it when I found my mind was really mine? To use whichever way I choose, producing thoughts that were not those of other people, but my own and mine alone. Was that the day? So in the third stanza, see again, the poet is starting with the line, when did my childhood go? So in this stanza, the poet deliberates on the same question about when he lost his childhood. He asked himself about possibilities and what that possibilities are. He wonders about the day he realized that his mind was his own and he could use it the way he wants. When he realized that he could produce his own thoughts which were not bound by anyone. He has his personal thoughts and he can think as he likes. So when he sensed his own individuality and a separate personality, was that the day he lost his childhood? So in these three stanzas, what did we see? The very first line is, when did my childhood go? And the last line is, was that the day? Now, see in this fourth stanza, what the poet is shifting the question from when to where. Where did my childhood go? Till now, in all the three stanzas, the poet was asking, when did my childhood go? Now, in this stanza, he is asking, where did my childhood go? It went to some forgotten place that's hidden in an infant's face. That's all I know. So, infant means newborn baby. So, in the last stanza, the poet remorses about his lost childhood. He concludes that this childhood had gone to some forgotten place which will never come back. He cherished his innocence, which vanished now and could be only seen in a baby's face. He only has sweet memories of his childhood, which would soon fade away. He also conveyed a message that the innocence of childhood stays till the time one is an infant, and that is all he knows. Okay, so this was all about the poem. Now let us come to a very important part of every poem, that is literary devices, or you can say poetic devices. It is a must in every poem. Okay, so remember all these literary devices very nicely for each and every poem. So our first poetic device is rationalism. Well, what rationalism do we find in this poem? So the poet rationalizes the lost childhood when he was 11 and when he found out that hell and heaven don't exist and are not found in the geography. So this is the literary device found in the first stanza of the poem, rationalism. Now, what is the rhyming scheme of the poem? Every poem has a rhyming scheme, or in case there is no rhyming scheme in the poem, what do we call it? We call it blank verse or free verse. If there is no rhyming scheme in any poem, we call it as blank verse or free verse. So we have a rhyming scheme in this poem, that is A, B, B, C, C, D. So this is the rhyming scheme used in the poem Childhood. Next is refrain. So that is a group of phrase which is repeated in the poem. Okay, what group of phrase was repeated in the poem? When did my childhood go? So this is again and again repeated in the poem in the very first line and the last line of every stanza. Was what the day? Was that the day? Okay, this was the line. So this phrase is being repeated many a times in the poem. So this is refrain. Now, individuality. In third stanza, the poet realized that he can use his own mind and can produce his own thoughts. So this is he is discovering a sense of individuality in himself. So in the third stanza, we can see that we have poetic device, individuality. Antithesis. Antithesis, I have already told you, where two opposite words are used together in a poem but have the different meaning. Okay, words having different meaning but are used at the same place in the poem, that is known as antithesis. So where can we find this in the poem? Hell and heaven. Hell and heaven, they are both used at the same place but they are opposite to each other. Hell and heaven meaning is opposite to each other. So this is antithesis. The next poetic device we have is alliteration. Now what is alliteration? The occurrence of the same letter of sound at the beginning of closely connected words. See, you can see here 4 words we have. The time. So T, T. The first alphabet should be consonant and they should be close together. The words should be close together. My mind. M, M. Whichever way, W, W. Thoughts, that, T, T. So this is known as alliteration. Next is inversion, where the subject verb order is reversed. To use whichever way I choose. So this is inversion. The subject verb order is reversed here. So this was all about the poem Childhood. I hope it was clear to you. I have already explained this poem in our live class. This is very easy poem. Only you need to remember is the theme, poet's name and the poetic devices. Okay, poetic devices of every stanzas. So this was all about the poem. Until the next video, keep learning and keep recalling. Thank you.